Do you make thoughtless remarks or accusations which you later regret? When others are getting rattled, do you remain fairly composed? Do you browse through railway timetables, directories or dictionaries just for pleasure? When asked to make a decision, would you be swayed by your like or dislike of the personality involved? Do you intend 2 or less children in your family, even though your health and income will permit more? Do you get occasional twitches of your muscles when there's no logical reason for it? Would you prefer to be in a position where you did not have the responsibilities of making decisions? Are your actions considered unpredictable by other people? Do you consider more money should be spent on Social Security? What is the capital of Peru anyway? Do other people interest you very much? Is your voice monotonous rather than varied in pitch? Do you normally let the other person start the conversation? No, but I damn well make sure I finish the conversation. Are you readily interested in other people's conversations? What? Would the idea of inflicting pain on game, small animals, or fish prevent you from hunting or fishing? Are you often impulsive in your behavior? Do you speak slowly? Are you usually concerned about the need to protect your health? Does an unexpected action cause your muscles to twitch, which is the same as an earlier question? Are you normally considerate in your demands on your employees, relatives or pupils? Do you consider that you could give a valid, snap judgment? Do your past failures still worry you? Oh yeah, those past failures. Do you find yourself being extra active for periods lasting several days? Do you resent the efforts of others to tell you what to do? Is it normally hard for you to own up and take the blame? Do you have a small circle of close friends rather than a large number of friends speaking acquaintances? Is your life a constant struggle for survival? Do you often sing or whistle just for the fun of it? Are you considered warm-hearted by your friends? Would you rather give orders than take them? Do you enjoy telling people the latest scandal about your associates? Could you agree to strict discipline? Would the idea of making a complete new start cause you much concern? Do you make efforts to get others to laugh and smile? Do you find it easy to express your emotions? Do you refrain from complaining when the other person is late for an appointment? And they're always late, aren't they? Are you sometimes considered by others a spoil sport? Can I have my ball back now, please? Do you consider there are other people who are definitely unfriendly towards you and work against you? Well, there are, obviously. Would you admit you were wrong just to keep the peace? Do you have only a few people of whom you are really fond? Are you rarely happy unless you have a special reason? Do you circulate around at a social gathering? Do you take reasonable precaution to prevent accidents? Does the idea of talking in front of people make you nervous? If you saw an article in a shop obviously mistakenly marked lower than its correct price, would you try to get it at that price? Really, would you? Do you often feel that people are looking at you or talking about you behind your back? Are you always getting into trouble? Have you any particular hate or fear? Do you prefer to be an onlooker rather than participate in any active sport? Get out of the arena. Do you find it easy to be impartial? Have you a definitely set standard of courteous behaviour in front of other members of your family? Can you start the ball rolling at a social gathering? Would you buy on credit with the hope that you can keep up the payments? Do you get an after reaction when something unexpected, such as an accident or other disturbing incident, takes place? Do you consider the good of all concerned rather than your own personal advantages? When hearing a lecturer, do you sometimes experience the idea that the speaker is referring entirely to you? Does external noise rarely interfere with your concentration? Are you usually up to date on everyday affairs? Can you confidently plan and work towards carrying out an event in 6 months' time? Do you consider the modern prisons without bars system doomed to failure? Do you tend to be careless? Do you ever get a dream-like feeling toward life when it all seems unreal? Do you speedily recover from the effects of bad news? When you criticize, do you at the same time try to encourage? Are you normally considered cold? Are your opinions insufficiently important to tell other people? Are you so self-assured that it sometimes annoys others? Do you keep close contact on articles of yours which you have loaned to friends? Who has got my Tom Cruise biography? Do you enjoy activities of your own choosing? Does emotional music have quite an effect on you? Do you completely condemn a person because he is a rival or opponent in some aspect of your relations with him? Do you often sit and think about death, sickness, pain, and sorrow? Are you perturbed at the idea of loss of dignity? Are you always collecting things which might be useful? Would you criticize faults and point out the bad points on someone else's character or handiwork? Are you openly appreciative of beautiful things? Do you sometimes give away articles which, strictly speaking, do not belong to you? Do you greet people effusively? Do you often ponder on previous misfortunes? Are you sometimes considered forceful in your actions or opinions? Do you accept criticism easily and without resentment? Are you usually undisturbed by noises off when you're trying to rest? Are you likely to be jealous? Do you tend to put off doing things and then discover it's too late? Do you prefer to abide by the wishes of others rather than seek to have your own way? Do you find it easy to get yourself started on a project? Do you bite your fingernails or chew the end of your pencil? Do you turn up the volume of your emotions just to create an effect? If we were invading another country, would you feel sympathetic towards conscientious objectors in this country? Are there some things about yourself on which you are touchy? Do you have a few interests and activities that are your own choice? Do you ever get a single thought which hangs around for days? Do you ever get a single thought which hangs around for days? Do you ever get a single thought which hangs around for days? Do you ever get... Are you a slow eater? Can you be a stabilizing influence when others get panicky? Would you stop and find out whether a person needed help even though they had not directly asked you for it? Are you prejudiced in favour of your own school, college, club or team, etc.? Come on, you Reds! Do you pay your debts and keep your promises when it's possible? Ron? Do you sleep well? Would you use corporal punishment on a child, age 10, if it refused to obey you? Wally Hanks, would you? Would you? Do you prefer to take a passive role in any club or organisation to which you belong? Are you logical and scientific in your thinking? Does the youth of today have more opportunity than that of a generation ago? Do you throw things away, only to discover that you need them later? Damn, where is that bloody thing? Would you give up easily on a given course if it were causing you a considerable amount of inconvenience? Do you wax enthusiastic about only a few subjects? Do you rarely suspect the actions of others? Do you sometimes wonder if anyone really cares about you? Do you turn down your responsibility because you doubt your fitness to cope? Do you sometimes feel compelled to repeat some interesting item or tidbit? Do you sometimes feel compelled to repeat some interesting item or tidbit? Do you sometimes feel compelled to repeat some interesting item or tidbit? Do you sometimes feel compelled to repeat? Do you tend to exaggerate a justifiable grievance? Is your facial expression varied rather than set? Do you usually need to justify or back up an opinion once stated? Do you openly and sincerely admire beauty in other people? Look at the arse on that. Would it take a definite effort on your part to consider the subject of suicide? Would you consider yourself energetic in your attitude toward life? Would a disagreement affect your general relationship with another person? You better ask them. Does a minor failure on your part rarely trouble you? Do you sometimes feel that you talk too much? Do you smile much? Are you easily pleased? When met with direct opposition, would you still seek to have your own way rather than give in? Provided the distance were not too great, would you still prefer to ride rather than walk? Do you ever get disturbed by the noise of the wind or a house settling down? What was that? It was the house sound. Is your opinion influenced by looking at things from the standpoint of your experiences, occupation or training? Do you often make tactless blunders? Are you suspicious of people who ask to borrow money from you? What's that you want, Ron? £5,000 for photographic equipment? Why, sure. Are your decisions swayed by personal interests? Can you get quite enthusiastic over some simple little thing? Do you frequently take action even though you know your own good judgment would indicate otherwise? Are you in favour of colour bar and class distinction? Are you aware of any habitual physical mannerisms such as pulling your hair, ouch, nose, ears, or such like? Can you quickly adapt and make use of new conditions and situations even though they may be difficult? Do some noises set your teeth on edge? Can you see the other fellow's point of view when you wish to? Do you go to bed when you want to rather than by the clock? Do the petty foibles of others make you impatient? Do children irritate you? Are you less talkative than your associates? Do you usually carry out assignments promptly and systematically? Would you assist a fellow traveller rather than leave it to the officials? When voting, do you vote the same party ticket straight rather than studying the candidates and issues? Do you frequently dwell on your past illnesses or painful experiences? Do you get very ill at ease in disordered surroundings? Do you usually criticize a film or show that you see or a book that you read? When recounting some amusing incident, can you easily imitate the mannerisms or the dialect in the original incident? I never had a second wife. In subjects about which you're not an expert, are your own ideas of sufficient importance as to tell others? Do you have a tendency to tidy up a disorder of someone else's household? Can you accept defeat easily without the necessity of swallowing your disappointment? Do you often feel depressed? Are you ever ill at ease in the company of children? Do you get frustrated at not being able to do something rather than finding a substitute activity or system? Are you sometimes completely unable to enter the spirit of things? Do you rarely express your grievances? Do you work in spurts, being relatively inactive and then furiously active for a day or two? Does the number of uncompleted jobs you have on hand bother you? Do people enjoy being in your company? Could you allow someone to finish those final 2 words in a crossword puzzle without interfering? Do you consider the best points of most people and only rarely speak slightingly of them? Do you laugh or smile quite readily? Are you definite and emphatic in voice and manner? Are you effusive only to close friends, if at all? Are your interests and fields of knowledge so important as to give little time for anything else? Would you like to start a new activity in the area in which you live? Would you make the necessary actions to kill an animal in order to put it out of pain? Is it easy for you to relax? Do you have little regret on past misfortunes and failures? Does the idea of fear or apprehension give you a physical reaction? Can you trust the decision of your judgment in an emotional situation in which you are involved? Could someone else consider that you were really active? Do you find it hard to get started on a task that needs to be done? Are you opposed to the probation system for criminals? Do you spend much time on needless worries? In a disagreement, do you find it hard to understand how the other person fails to see your side and thus agree with you? Do you cope with everyday problems of living quite well? Are you usually truthful to others? I don't have a Swiss bank account. Would you rather wait for something to happen as opposed to you causing it? Do you spend too freely in relation to your income? Can you take a calculated risk without too much worry? If you were involved in a slight car accident, would you really take the trouble to see that any damage you did was made good? Because you know we're the only ones who can really help. Do others push you around? Do you make allowances for your friends where with others you might judge more severely? Do you often ponder over your own inferiority? Do people criticize you to others? Are you embarrassed by a hearty greeting such as a kiss, hug, or pat on the back done in public? Do you frequently not do something you want to do because of other people's desires? Are you sometimes convinced of the correctness of your opinions about a subject, even though you're not an expert? Do you find yourself going off in all directions at once? Do your acquaintances seem to think more of your abilities than you do? Is the idea of death, or even reminders of death, abhorrent to you? Having settled an argument out, do you continue to feel disgruntled for a while? Are you friendly in voice, attitude, and expression? Does life seem rather vague and unreal to you? Do you often feel upset about the fate of war victims and political refugees? Do mere acquaintances appeal to you for aid or advice in their personal difficulties? If you lose an article, do you get the idea that someone must have stolen or mislaid it? If you thought that someone was suspicious of you and your actions, would you tackle them on the subject rather than leaving them to work it out? Do you sometimes feel that your age is against you, too young or too old? Do you have spells of being sad and depressed for no apparent reason? Do you do much grumbling about conditions you have to face in life? Do you consider you have many warm friends? Do you tend to hide your feelings?